All right, so this is our next to last topic that we will cover in preparation for the test. Tomorrow will be our last topic, okay? But they're both related to each other. So the good news is they'll kind of, build on each other a little bit. Okay, so solving an absolute value equation. All right, the first thing we're going to do here is, well, there's kind of two main methods we're going to use, okay? So, and the first one we're going to use is graphing. Okay? This is a method that we are going to be able to use for any equation that we ever come across. Okay? In fact, in life, all right, if you ever have an equation that you need to solve and you have a graphing calculator available to you, okay, all you have to do is just graph the left-hand side of the equation graph the right-hand side and then we'll find the blank. So if we graph the left-hand side of the equation, that'll be one graph. And we graph the right-hand side of the equation, that'll be a second separate graph, right? We graph them at the same time. Where will we find our solutions then? Where will we find our solutions? Yeah, John?
Intersect.
Intersect? Tyler, what are you going to say?
Middle.
In the middle? Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's do one here. Maybe we get an idea. Okay. I don't want to say yes or no just yet. All right. But let's see what happens. So let's do an example. Okay. I'll wait to fill in the rest of this. So find the blank. We'll fill in the rest of that in just a second. Let's leave that question hanging. This works. This method works for the SAT. If you ever have an equation on the SAT you're supposed to solve, and you have your graphing calculator, this works. Any test you're ever going to come across, if you completely blank and you have this equation in front of you, you can graph the left-hand side, graph the right-hand side, find the point of intersection. Okay. So, let's graph it. So here's the left-hand side, right? So we're going to graph, we'll graph y1 equals the absolute value of 2 parentheses, or 2 absolute value x minus 5 minus 4, and then we'll graph y2, which is just equal to 2. Okay. I'll graph by hand over here, but if you want to just use your graphing calculator, of course, you're more than welcome to. But since we can graph this by hand, I'm going to, right? It's not going to be that crazy to do here. So let's just see. Because it'll help practice our transformations and stuff. Since I think we could use more practice, so that can't hurt. Okay, of course, now when I'm graphing by hand, you're going to need to make sure that you graph accurately, right? That's the main thing here, so I'm going to try. All right, so let's go. Tyler, help us out here. If we want to graph this equation right here, what kind of transformations are we going to?
Down 4.
Okay, down 4. And?
Right 5.
Right 5. So yeah, so right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here. Okay, just like that. There's our vertex. And then from here, Tyler, where are you going to go now?
Up to
Yeah, up to over 1, right? The slope there, the a value is 2. So we can just, again, because an absolute value equation is made up of 2 lines, we can just count up 1, 2, and then right 1. And then up 1, 2, and then right 1. And then up 1, 2, and then right 1. And so on and so forth. 1, 2, like that. So there's that side. And then to get the other side of the absolute value, instead of going up to right 1, we'll do what? Up to left 1. That's right. So up to left 1. Up to left 1. Up to left 1. Up to left 1. Okay, so in red there, I graphed the, and maybe I'll just box it. Okay, in red there, I graphed absolute value. Okay, now in blue, I'll graph the 2. What does the graph of y equals 2 look like? What's it going to look like?
It'll be on y2.
Okay, it'll be on the y value of 2. So we have a point right here at y value of 2. I'll put a little point there, okay. So there's that point. But what is the rest of the graph going to look like? Is it just a point?
Straight line.
Yeah, so straight line. But yeah, when we call it this direction, what do we actually?
Horizontal.
It's horizontal, right? Like the horizon, right? Like the horizon is flat, right? Where the sky meets the land. Well, it's roughly flat, right? Of course, but mountains and things. But yeah, it's going to be a horizontal line. Very good, okay? So we're just going to graph this horizontal line, nice and flat. And, yes, okay, so where is the solution to this equation located? It's where the 2 graphs, what? Intersect. That is where our solutions, we have more than 1. 2 solutions here, okay? So find the point of or I should say point or points. Well, I can't fit that in there. I'll put points there. Points of intersection. Okay. So what are our solutions here?
2,
2, 2, and 8. Is that what it is? 8? 5, 6, 7. Yep, 8. Okay, 8, 2. Yeah. So when we're solving an equation, typically we're only interested in the x value. So all you have to give me is x equals 2 and x equals 8. It's not necessary to give me the y value there. All I need is just the x values, right? Because we're just solving the equation there for x. So there are the 2 solutions. Okay. And that's how you solve it. Your graphing calculator, you can do the exact same thing without having to go through that whole mess of graphing by hand. What's that?
Just plug both of them in.
Yeah, exactly right. So let me show you that here real quick. 2 math num abs x minus 5 minus 4, and then we'll graph the 2. Whoops. Okay, there's our absolute value. And there's our horizontal line and the 2 solutions, right? To find the coordinates of the intersection point here, okay, you can kind of like eyeball it a little bit, right? You can see it's like 2, 2, but sometimes it's not so obvious. So you can actually make your calculator find the point of intersection for you if you press second and then trace. This is another menu that we'll be using a lot in our work, and there is the command we want to use, intersect. So your calculator will help guide you through what you're supposed to do. It's asking you what the first curve is, and you can see that right now it's describing the absolute value function, right? So my little target thing, right, is on the absolute value. So yes, that's our first curve. The second curve, yes, that's that horizontal line. And then it says guess. Now, we have 2 different points of intersection we want to find here. Whichever one you want to find, you want to move your little cursor to that point of intersection. So for example, if I wanted to find this one, I'm going to move it over to there and hit enter, and it'll give me that point of intersection. And there it is, 8, 2. So 8 is our answer there. And you guys, I mean, if I do it again, intersect, yes, yes, and then I'll move my guess over to here.
Mr. Woodman,
Yep.
can I do that?
Yeah. There's our point of intersection. 2. Okay? So you get those 2 solutions that way as well. You will be able to use your graphing calculator on any test or quiz. So please make sure you know how to use it because it'll help. All right, questions on the graphing method. This will work for every single equation you ever come across, including all the stuff that we do in our class. Okay? And I'll review that every time we have a new thing to solve. All right, so that was method 1. Okay, method 2. We're going to use algebra. Okay. And let's remember here, what does the absolute value mean?
That there's only like one, like it's the absolute, like it's the only one.
Okay.
It's the absolute.
Absolute value. Okay. I see that. Mm-hmm. I think we talked about this. Maybe we didn't. I feel like we had. Let me see if I said anything about this. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we didn't. I don't know. We first talked about graphing, maybe. Yes. Oh, no, that was a different class. Well, no, I'm not sure. Absolute value is the distance from what?
From X?
Not from X. From the origin or from 0 on the number line. Okay? Believe it or not, right? The definition of absolute value is not it makes things positive. All right? That is what absolute value does, right? If you take the absolute value of -3, it makes it positive 3, right? If you take the absolute value of 3, it's already positive, right? So it just keeps it positive 3. But that is not the definition of absolute value. It's actually distance from 0. Can on the number line, right? So can a distance be negative? Will you ever measure something and say, oh, that's -3 feet?
No.
No. So that's why when you take the absolute value of something, it's always positive because we're describing a distance. Okay? So for example here, let me just show you an easy or a simple absolute value equation here. Okay? Absolute value of x equals 3, which means we want the distance of this thing to be 3 units from 0. Okay? So absolute value of x is 3, means we want the distance of the thing inside here to be 3 units away from 0. So if I go on my number line here, I'll just draw a little one right here. Okay, I put a 0. Okay. What numbers on the number line are 3 units away from 0?
3 and negative.
3 and negative 3, right? So that means 3 and negative 3. Okay, they're both 3 units away from 0. So in other words, the answer to this equation is that x could be -3 or x could be 3. Do these answers check out if we plug them back in? Do they both make the equation true?
Yeah.
They do, right? So those are our solutions. Okay? And if you don't believe me, you could graph the left-hand side, graph the right-hand side, find the points of intersection, but it would work out that way. Okay? So then, let's do another simple one. Okay? Absolute value of x equals 1. Maybe I'll write the 1 like this so it stands out a little bit. Okay? What are our solutions here?
1 and negative
1 and negative 1. Okay? 2 solutions. This is weird, right? Different. Most of the equations that we solve only have 1 solution. Absolute value equations have 2, typically. But then what about that? The absolute value of x equals 0. What numbers are 0 units away from 0? 0. Yeah, 0. Is there another number that's 0 units away from 0?
No.
No. So this absolute value equation that I showed you right here only has 1 solution. throw another one at you here. How about the absolute value of x equals -3? What's the answer for this equation? What is the answer for this equation? The absolute value of what number is going to end up with a -3 as our answer? That's right, there is no answer. That's what I assumed you guys were trying to indicate to me by not answering, right? You were just like, there is no answer. There's no solution. It's impossible, right? It's not possible. There's no number that you can take the absolute value and get a -3, right? Because again, absolute value is distance. We're not going to have a negative distance, okay? So be on the lookout here, right? When you get to the absolute value of something, and it's equal to a negative value, you know you have no solution. Okay, so no solution is a possibility here. So we got to be on our toes. Okay? All right, let's try some more here. Because obviously not all of our equations are going to be this simple, right? Let's add a little more complexity in here. So now we have stuff in there with the x, okay? What we can't do here, what we cannot do here, all right, is add 4 to both sides, okay? We cannot add 4 to both sides. Why? Because these absolute value symbols, they're like parentheses, okay? And when you have parentheses, right, these are like grouping symbols, right? You have to kind of like do whatever's inside there before you can move the 4 over. Because that absolute value is not only parentheses, but it's also like an operation. It's a thing you need to do. We can't take the absolute value of -4 there because we haven't been able to take it away from x yet. Okay? So since we haven't been able to do the subtraction, right, we can't do the absolute value. You cannot break up an absolute value over addition or subtraction. Okay? So in other words, okay, you can't break up the absolute value like this. Okay? Over the subtraction and say, oh, it's just absolute value of x minus absolute value of 4. It doesn't work that way all the time, not in general. Okay? So we can't do that. So what do? Well, again, remember, absolute value of x minus 4. So the absolute value of this thing, the distance, right, of this thing, we want to be 10 units from 0. What two numbers are 10 units from 0? Negative 10 and 10. So we're going to make 2 separate equations. One where x minus 4 is 10 units away from 0 in the positive direction, so it's equal to 10. And then we'll make another equation where x minus 4 is equal to negative 10, 10 units away from 0 in the other direction. So we break this up into 2 equations. And then you guys know how to solve from here. What would you do to both sides? In either equation, what are we going to do to both sides? Add 4, yeah. So plus 4, plus 4. So we get x equals 14. And here when I add 4 to both sides, do I get negative 14? No, what do I get? Yeah, negative 6. So be careful there, right? The answers aren't always going to be just opposites of each other, right? In these simpler ones, they were just opposites. But in this one, right, they're not quite opposites.
I remember this.
You remember this now? Yeah? Okay. All right, how about you guys try one here? Now that I've done that one, you guys try this one. I've got 3 more for you, including this one. So I'm going to have you guys try one now. Okay, so go ahead and try that one. Okay, it's very much like that first one we just did right there. Solve for x. So give that one a try. If you want to use a graphic calculator to solve it, please do it first with the algebra, then you can use that calculator to check your work. See what's there.
So it's 2x. The original equation was 2x plus 1. So you want to make that 2x plus 1. Yeah, and then subtract 1, so it's fix your answers there. But otherwise, it's pretty good there. Good, yeah, good job. So let's see. -7 take away 1, it's going to be -8. And then you fix your answer from there, okay? Otherwise, it looks good though. Got it okay? Good. Bobby, got it okay? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, good job, Christian. Well done, sir. Nice to go. You got it over here, sir. Yeah. All right, so working on here? Okay. So the 2x plus 1, what's inside the absolute value, it doesn't change. So you want to have 2x plus 1, then you want that to be 2x plus 1 as well. So then you have to fix that. So this one's fine, it goes to the recorrect. That's all. And you're okay. You got it okay?
Yeah.
You're nicely done. So well done too.
All right. So again, we have our absolute value of something equals 7. Okay? So again, think the distance of this quantity. All right? The whole quantity is inside the absolute value, so it's the distance of the whole thing needs to be 7 units away from 0. So that means either that 2x plus 1 is equal to positive 7, or the 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 7. Okay? Nothing else flip-flops, right? This stays 2x plus 1 here and 2x plus 1 here, right? So what's inside stays, because we're trying to find the distance of this quantity. So the quantities stay the same. It's where it's going to be located, right? So 7 units away from 0 can be positive 7 or negative 7. And so we just solve. So we get 2x equals 6, and so x is equal to positive 3 if I divide both sides by 2. And here I get 2x equals negative 8 when I subtract 1 on both sides, and so x is negative 4. Okay, and there are 2 solutions. Did anyone try graphing this? Okay. It's an option, right? It's an option. And of course, the other option that you always have every time you solve an equation is to take your answers, plug them back in, and check to see that you get, the makes the equation true. Okay? All right. So, last thing here, I got 2 more. I got one equation I'll do, and then I'll have you guys try one on your own here. Okay? So, So, now we have some more stuff, okay? But this stuff is outside the absolute value function equation. And we have stuff inside the absolute value, right? So here, right, we had our absolute value by itself. We just kind of broke it up into equations and then solved. Here we have some other stuff that's outside. So the key thing we're going to do here, isolate the absolute value. Okay, I used 2 different stars, so that's weird. Anyway, okay, isolate the absolute value. That's going to be our first step. Once we isolate the absolute value, then it's just like these other ones, right? These other ones, the absolute value was already by itself for us, right? That's where it started out. So we can just solve them like that. So here we just need to isolate. So what would be like a good first step to do here to start getting that absolute value by itself here? What should we do first? What's the absolute value that we need to get rid of? Okay, there's a negative 2. What else is with the absolute value we need to get rid of? The 3 is inside, so we're going to hold off on that for right now.
5.
Yeah, the plus 5. We got to get rid of that plus 5, okay? So, I'm going to get rid of the plus 5 first. Well, minus 5 on both sides. Okay, so at least it's negative 2 times the 3x minus 6. And then 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Okay. And again, remember, when the negative 2 is written next to the absolute value, right, that means multiplication. So, well, we could distribute it, or how can we get rid of that negative 2? To undo multiplication, we do what? Division, right? You have to divide. Divide everything by negative 2. Okay, so the negative 2's will cancel over there. Negative 4 divided by negative 2? 2, right? And then I have the absolute value of 3x minus 6. Okay, and then at this point, split into 2 equations and solve. Right? Just as we did before. Okay, so here we'll split into 2 equations. One equation will have 3x minus 6 equals what? 2. And then, yeah, one where 3x minus 6 equals negative 2. Yeah, exactly. Okay? Because once we get to this point right here, it's just like these earlier ones that we did. Right? Absolute value by itself. Absolute value by itself. Right? So here's the absolute value by itself. We'll just then split into 2 equations. And then you just solve from there. So we'll add 6 to both sides, if I have enough space. And then divide both sides by 3. X equals, ooh, fractions. Makes everybody think they got the answer wrong when they get a fraction, right? Well, we did it right. Okay, we can check our workout too if we want to. And we'll add 6 here to both sides. We get 3x equals 4, and then divide both sides by 3. Oh man, another fraction. Now we really think we got this one wrong, right? But if you don't believe me, right, you can always plug it back into your equation. Now you might look at that and say, Mr. Witt, that's too much to plug it back in my equation and check it out. And I understand that. Okay. Let me show you a way you can use your graphing calculator to help you do that. And then I will give you guys one here to try on your own. Okay? All right. So, on the graphing calculator, let me do this. Okay? So let's say we want to check the answer 8/3. Okay? So there's lots of different ways you can do it. You could, on your home screen, just type this whole mess in, except in parentheses, you could put the 8/3 in place of the x, right? That's one way to do it. Let me show you a different way, though. So if you type 8/3, okay, into your calculator and hit enter, right? So there's our decimal right there that we get. You can actually have your calculator store that in for a variable. So the way you do that is you press the STO button, short for store, okay? And then when you press that, you'll see now that it's got my answer, which is what I just wrote there, and it's got a little arrow. And that's waiting for us to type in a variable to store that number into. So I'm going to use this button right here that you normally use for x, and hey, look, there's an x. And we hit enter. Now, anytime I use x on my home screen, it will use 8/3 for x, okay? It does not use 8/3 for x and y equals, right? When I go to my y equals and graph this, that x will still just be a variable x. It doesn't have a value. But on the home screen now, every time I use x, it'll be that value. So if I type in my calculator here, -2, math, num, abs, right? Use my abs value, 3x minus 6, and put the plus 5 on the outside. Oh, sorry, it's hard to see. There we go. Okay. So I just type in what I have there on the left-hand side and hit enter. Voila. I get 1. Okay, so we know, check, that one works. I can check 4/3 the same way. So let me show you here. I'll do 4/3. Actually, do it in parentheses. 4/3, store in for x. And then instead of retyping this, I have like one of the newer calculators. I can arrow up and hit enter. That copy pastes it. Okay, and hit enter one more time, and again I get 1. But that was using the x value of 4/3. Okay, there. If you have an older calculator and you want to like do the copy paste thing, you press second enter, and that cycles through the previous things you typed in. So you don't have to like retype a bunch of stuff, right? You can just hit second enter, second enter, second enter, and see all the crazy things that you typed in the past. Okay, second enter, and that cycles through all those things. Okay, just trying to help you be familiar there with calculator. All right, one more question for you, and then we'll get started on the assignment. Okay, so try this one. Okay, so go ahead and try that one. Actually, I should say try, not example. Okay. I'll try and leave some. So we say this. Maybe you don't solve this one. Isolate the absolute value and look at your result. And think about why your result is strange. Okay? So isolate the absolute value, get the absolute value by itself. Look at your result. Okay, and then decide what you're going to do. Okay? So isolate the absolute value, look at your result, then decide what you're going to do. You want to be careful here. Isolate the absolute value, the absolute value by itself. Look at the result. Okay. And see what your answer is going to be. Just get the absolute value by itself. Okay, don't solve it. Just get the absolute value by yourself. By itself. Look at your result there. Think about what your solution is going to be. Give you like 30 more seconds to ponder it. Okay. All right. So, Liana, what would we do here for our first? What we kind of do here first to start getting that absolute value by itself? What should we do to both sides?
Subtract the 2.
Yeah, subtract 2 on both sides. You got it. Good job. Okay, -5, absolute value of x plus 1 equals, let's see, 12 minus 2 is 10. Okay. Then what?
Divide both sides by 5.
Yeah, by a -5, right? Yeah. Okay. So -5's cancel. Okay, and now we've gotten to the point where we have isolated the absolute value, right? The absolute value is by itself. Yes, there's the x plus 1, but I mean, the absolute value, the thing in the absolute value is by itself. And my result here is 10 divided by -5, it equals -2. And this is where I ask you guys to stop and pause, okay, and ponder your results. Okay, so if you didn't get to this point, I'll give you like 30 seconds to ponder this result, okay? So take a look at that, right? If you didn't get there, right, take a look at that now. Okay. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to ponder the results now. Think about what your solution, what your answer is going to be for this problem. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so we isolate the absolute value, and Mr. Wid said to split it into 2 equations and solve it, right? So I should do this for my next step, right? X plus 1 equals -2, and x plus 1 equals +2, right? That's what I should do for my next step, right? No. But Mr. Wid, that's what you said to do next. Once we isolate the absolute value, we're supposed to then split it into two equations to solve. That's what you did over here. Why aren't you doing it over here? Why not? I'm going to get answers. I get x equals -3. I get x equals 1. Why is this wrong?
2's already negative. It's a negative.
So we have an absolute value of something, and it's equal to a negative number. Is this ever possible? The answer here, right, yeah, is no solution. Okay, no solution. But if you follow that procedure blindly, right, if you just act like a robot, you know, okay, you just go on autopilot here, you're going to get answers. Those answers do not work. If you plug them back into the inequality, they will not work, right? Try plugging 1 back in. 1 plus 1 is 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 times a -5 is -10. Plus 2 gives you -8, not 12, right? And the -3, plug it in. It will also not give you 12, okay? So be careful here. You have to, you can't just, disengage your brains and go on autopilot, all right? Because, this method that I'm showing here to solve, you can even use it over here and it'll give you wrong answers because you started with a false premise, okay? We said this is going to be true. It's never true, right? So that's why there's no solution there. So please be careful. Please be on your toes. An absolute value will never equal a negative number, right? An absolute value can equal a 0. An absolute value can equal a positive number, but absolute value will never equal a negative number. So please, please, please be careful with that. Questions there? All right. Let's get you guys started on your assignment then. So on in the book, in section 2.2, I believe. Yep, 2.2. Starting, not on page 81. That's the wrong page. So hang on here. Question? Yeah, go ahead. Thanks for reading. Okay, 2.2, starting on page 60. I want you to do numbers. One. And then 3 to 15, the odds. Wait a minute. 5 to 15, the odds, sorry. Okay. 1 and then 5 to 15, the odds, please. Okay. 1 asks you to graph it, so please do sketch a graph or use your graphing calculator to solve it. Okay, but all these other ones there. Right without this. You don't need to graph solutions for 5 to 15. Okay, so the only one I want you to do any sort of graph for is number 1. 5 to 15, you do not need to graph the solutions or anything like that. Those are just all right. Okay, so I have a spare book back there if you want to go grab one and just use that right now. I have a few spare books in the back if you want to use that. Yes. Please make sure those books make it back by the end of class, or you can of course pull it up on your Chromebook or anything like that too. So your choice. 2.2 is the section on page 60 there in the book. Okay.